The criminal trial for Sam Bankman-Fried officially started on October the 3rd at Manhattan Federal Court in New York City. The first day was just finalizing the jury selection, and it's really not that interesting for the everyday fraud enthusiast. So the real substance of the trial started on October the 4th, when the Department of Justice, who are the prosecution, and lawyers for Sam Bankman-Fried, the defense, delivered their opening arguments. So the DOJ is taking a very hardline stance against Sam. They're portraying the former billionaire as someone who deliberately lied to investors to enrich himself and expand his crypto empire, and used his hedge fund Alameda Research as a key tool to steal customer funds. Meanwhile, the defense portrayed Sam as a young, wistful entrepreneur who made a series of poorly planned but fundamentally non-malicious or non-illegal decisions that just didn't work out. Now, the truly interesting stuff happened on Thursday the 5th of October, where we saw 3 key witnesses take to the stand, 2 of which provided some of the most damning testimony against Sam we've seen so far. Those 3 witnesses were Adam Yedidia, a former software engineer at FTX co-founder Gary Wang, and Matt Wang, the founder and managing partner of the crypto venture capital firm Paradigm. Kicking things off with a bang, Adam Yedidia took the stand first. Now, Yedidia, who was also Sam's old college roommate, said that he was tasked with overseeing a project that automated customer deposits and withdrawals at Alameda. In December 2021, while working on this process, he learned that customer funds were going into a bank account called North Dimension, which was tracked by a separate account at FTX. At that time, the balance of this account was around $500 million, and he said he wasn't initially alarmed by this because he assumed that Alameda was simply holding on to the money. However, by June 2022, this figure had allegedly ballooned to $8 billion. Concerned by this massive number, he confronted Sam at a paddle tennis court in the Bahamas about the financial status of FTX and Alameda. Sam allegedly replied that the company was bulletproof in 2021, but was no longer bulletproof in 2022. Sam then told Yedidia that it may take anywhere between 6 months to 3 years to be bulletproof again. Yedidia quit FTX in November and ceased all contact with Sam, saying that once he learned that FTX customer deposits were being used to fund trading activity at Alameda, he simply couldn't work there anymore. Now, in its cross-examination of Yedidia, the prosecution presented much of the lavish spending conducted by Sam and FTX, contrasting photos of their original kind of everyday offices in Hong Kong with the $40 million penthouse in the Bahamas and all of the extremely luxurious facilities at FTX in the Bahamas. Now, the defense tried to counter this narrative by saying that the $40 million penthouse, which is an expensive penthouse, was just a simple share house that was used by multiple FTX employees and was never Sam Bankman-Fried's personal apartment. They also said that he didn't use any of the money to buy a super yacht, and pointed out that Sam drove a Toyota Corolla. Next on the stand was Paradigm co-founder Matt Wang, who said that SBF was very resistant to having formal governance structure at FTX, and resisted many of the calls for investors to join FTX's board of directors. Now, Huang's testimony served as more of insight into the investment scene surrounding FTX and Alameda Research at the time. There wasn't too much in the way of damning evidence presented against Sam, apart from adding to the fact that he was adamant that there was no special relationship between Alameda and FTX to investors. But without a doubt, the most insanely damning evidence delivered against Sam at the trial came from his once closest associate and FTX's own co-founder and former chief technical officer, Gary Wang. Here's how the line of questioning went down with Gary. The prosecution asked, "Did you commit crimes while working at FTX?" To which Wang answered, "Yes." "What type of crimes did you commit?" Wang answered, "Wire fraud, securities fraud, and commodity fraud." The prosecution asked, "Did you commit these crimes with other people?" He said, "Yes, I did." The prosecution then asked, "Who were the main people that you committed these crimes with?" To which Wang replied, "Sam Bankman-Fried, Nishad Singh, and Caroline Ellison." Wang went on to explain that not only did Alameda have many special privileges when it came to using customer deposits from FTX, but that Sam explicitly asked him to write these into the codebase. Among these privileges included being able to place orders faster, being able to maintain a negative balance, and the ability to have a whopping $65 billion line of credit. Wang said he personally implemented some of these features and reviewed many of the others. These privileges were never publicly disclosed by Sam, FTX, or Alameda. On Friday, October 6th, the court was focused entirely on the testimony of Gary Wang, who explained in detail the types of privileges that Alameda was granted. Wang said that Alameda had built in an allow negative balance privilege for Alameda research. Just to make this a little more hard-hitting, these features were enabled on July 31, 2019, the very same day that Sam posted a public tweet saying that Alameda's account was just like everyone else's at FTX. That's the entire overview of the trial so far. The court will be closed on Monday for Indigenous Peoples Day in the United States, so the trial will resume on Tuesday, with Caroline Ellison taking the stand for the first time. Now that we've seen the wealth of new and old evidence levied against Sam, I think it's crucial to address the context in which the trial is unfolding, which is in this really strange, somewhat defensive slant from some of the largest media institutions in the United States. Now, as a crypto reporter myself, I'm forced to keep up with this stuff on a daily basis and have been doing so since the collapse of FTX in November. Ever since FTX imploded, I've seen a wealth of reporting from two institutions in particular. And this isn't all of it, but it constitutes a large bit of it, large enough for me to bring this up. These institutions are the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, who, for the most part, seem to be incapable of reconciling the fact that Sam may have done something extremely illegal. Even to this day, they're still running leads like this. Is it possible to lose track of $8 billion through an honest mistake? While this is technically reporting the truth of the main question at the trial, a lot of their editorial work is still tacitly treating Sam like he's a potentially misunderstood guy whose noble intentions somehow just didn't work out for him. It almost seems like they don't want to be caught out coming even close to presuming guilt whatsoever. Kind of strange to me how obsessed they are with keeping an arm's distance between the evidence and their presumption of Sam's innocence. I think that most of the blame for this, at least recently, can be laid at the feet of the author of The Big Short, Michael Lewis, who has been peddling a defense of Sam like no one else, following the release of his book, Going Infinite, which can only really be described as a softball, pandering biography of Sam. So to be fair, Lewis was writing this book many, many months before FTX collapsed and the alleged fraud was exposed. And so he was hanging out with Sam during his peak Wonder Child era. And so the book was understandably being written in this vein of portraying Sam as a noble, altruistic visionary. But when FTX imploded in November, it became immediately apparent that FTX and Alameda Research had been doing some extremely risky and fundamentally stupid, even allegedly illegal things with customer funds. Now, I'm not just making shit up. We know for a fact that FTX wasn't using customer funds properly, because when people went to withdraw their money from the exchange, it wasn't there. I don't know if Lewis got too close to Sam or if he developed some sort of father-son relationship with him. It's unclear who's the father and who's the son. Or what's going on in his head. However, as an author, when you have a mountain of evidence that points in the direct opposite direction of what you're writing, it just seems reasonable that you would adjust the narrative, or you would tell the story a little differently. But it seems as though Lewis had written his book and made up his mind. He is adamant that Sam is a good guy whose noble intentions just didn't work out. I think that figures like Sam mask their potent Nietzschean will to power behind things like effective altruism, largely because they're deceiving themselves as much as they are those around them. And I think that this is a masking mechanism that has been figured out by tech bros in Silicon Valley and finance bros on Wall Street, because they know that they can get a free pass for doing terrible shit, all while accruing status and power along the way. Just because Sam's quest for power didn't take this obvious, almost childish form of purple Lamborghinis and 200-foot mega yachts doesn't mean that it's not a quest for power. The fact that Lewis and so many reporters either can't or refuse to see this is damning not just on their skills as investigators, but on their skills as storytellers, because they're missing a fundamental thread of the narrative. And I'm really interested to see how this trial plays out. And if a guilty verdict is handed down, it will be very interesting to see how Lewis and people like him will reconcile their need to eat from the palm of anyone who shows even the slightest glimmer of virtue. At the end of each week, for the next 5 weeks, I'll be uploading a recap of the Sam Bankman-Fried trial, much like this one, although probably with less philosophical rambling next time. If you like the idea of that, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.